afternoon. Welcome to ASEAN Business Report. It's the first Friday of 2012. It's 6th of January. You're watching us live from Bangkok, Thailand. I'm Patsurang Desha Putharangsi.
I am Oravita Misai, and we're starting with Myanmar as the Danish Ministers for Development Cooperation is to visit Myanmar for talks with the government officials and Myanmar's democracy icon Aung San Suu Kyi, the Foreign Ministry said yesterday. Christian Frisberg said his visit, due to begin Friday, would offer a chance to talk to key actors and listen to their assessments of developments and how Denmark could support positive trends in the Asian country. The government in Myanmar has recently freed a number of political prisoners and announced reforms. Denmark on January the 1st took over the 6-month rotating presidency of the European Union, and Baga said he hoped the visit would contribute to the ongoing discussion in the EU on how it could support the reconciliation and reform process in Myanmar.
Well, Kunanawi, Denmark is not the only country from Europe, to consider a very fresh new move to start in Myanmar, because the European Union, the PAC, will open an office, the representative office in Yangon, to manage aid programs and play a political role. There was a statement from the spokesman of the bloc's top diplomat Catherine Ashton said on Thursday. Michael Mann told AFP that they agreed with the authorities in Myanmar to open a representative office in Yangon. He said it will not be an EU delegation. It will be responsible for management of aid programs, but it will also have a political role. He added the office will be managed by the EU delegation in Thailand and will open as soon as it is administratively possible. The United States and European countries have imposed economic sanctions on Myanmar over its human rights record, including the imprisonment of about 2,000 political detainees, about 200 of whom were freed last month. The EU has launched a substantial review of its policy towards Myanmar, Ashton said in November, after the government allowed the party of democracy icon Aung San Suu Kyi to re-register as a political party. Suu Kyi has now been allowed to contest by-elections on April the 1st this year. The 66-year-old opposition leader could enter parliament for the first time if she goes ahead with plans to contest the by-elections.
Britain's Foreign Secretary William Hague is now on a 2-day visit to Myanmar as well.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was the first visit by UK's Foreign Secretary since 1955. He met with President Thein Sein and government ministers, as well as Myanmar's democracy icon Aung San Suu Kyi. He urged Myanmar's government to build on steps toward greater freedom and democracy. As quoted in Bloomberg, Hague said in an emailed statement after meeting with President Thein Sein, Foreign Minister and Lower House Speaker, that he emphasized the importance the British government attaches to the reforms that the Burmese government has undertaken in the last 6 months, and his sincere hopes that there will be further progress in the weeks and months ahead. He said he made clear that the British government stands ready to respond positively to evidence of further progress towards that lasting improvement in human rights and political freedom that the people of Burma seek. He stated he wants to see the release of more political prisoners, free and fair elections, and steps towards stopping fighting in ethnic regions. The UK, the biggest aid donor to Myanmar with £185 million passed to the country through non-governmental organizations over 3 years, will meet with its EU partners to set benchmarks for the lifting of sanctions after Hague's visit. Though the 2-day visit signals a shift in relations, Britain won't promise any immediate change in European Union sanctions on arms sales, asset freezes and travel bans, or change a policy that discourages UK businesses from trade with Myanmar. Hague will lay out a series of demands for Myanmar's leadership to meet before it considers offering funds direct to the government or before the EU can lift any sanctions. Hague's visit follows a trip by U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton in December.
Well, Kunanawi, not just Europe, but the U.S. has taken again a very critical step for deepening relations with Washington as two senior U.S. diplomats and a lawmaker will make separate trips to Myanmar, where the military-dominated government has balked at releasing hundreds of political prisoners. The visits, including the first day by a member of the U.S. House of Representatives in over a decade, build on the landmark trip by Secretary of State Hillary Clinton in December. Then, the U.S. offered improved ties in return for progress toward democracy. They traveled to Myanmar as the Obama administration and Congress gauged the sincerity of its government in pursuing reform. While lifting sanctions is unlikely in the short term, the U.S. could reward progress with the appointment of a full ambassador. The U.S. is currently represented in Myanmar by a charge d'affaires. Derek Mitchell, who has shuttled between Myanmar and the U.S. since his August appointment as special U.S. envoy, will arrive Monday for meetings in the remote capital Naypyidaw and the main city Yangon. He will also travel to Bagan to see microfinance programs and other development work. Also traveling to the country Monday will be State Department's Ambassador at Large on combating human trafficking, Luz Sidibaka. He was expected to raise U.S. concerns over the authorities' use of forced labor and the military's recruitment of child soldiers. He will also explore opportunities to strengthen the government's anti-trafficking efforts. The envoys will be followed by the first in a series of U.S. lawmakers slated to visit this month. New York Democrat Joseph Crowley, who spearheaded legislation that tightened the sanctions in 2008, is due to arrive next Thursday on a two-day visit, meeting with the government officials, Suu Kyi, of course, and representatives from ethnic minorities. His staff said it will be the first visit to the country by a member of the U.S. House of Representatives since 1999, although Senate members have visited more recently. Influential Republican Senator John McCain, who traveled to Myanmar in June and met with Suu Kyi and government leaders, is expected to make another trip this month, accompanied by independent Senator Joe Lieberman. According to two people familiar with the plans, he requested anonymity because they were not authorized to divulge them. Myanmar is among the rare issues in Washington that attract bipartisan support, and the Obama administration's efforts to engage with the new government while retaining sanctions have been generally welcomed by both Democrat and Republican lawmakers. In December, as we can see, the U.S. Secretary already gave Myanmar's a visit in 56 years. And after meeting with President Thein Sein and his administration, she challenged the leaders of Myanmar to continue and expand upon recent reforms, calling for the release of all political prisoners, an end to violent campaigns against the ethnic minorities, and the breaking of military ties with North Korea. Clinton also met with Myanmar's democracy icon Aung San Suu Kyi, and both of them said more progress is needed to be made by Burma's President Thein Sein and its government for true reform to take hold. And Suu Kyi emphasized the need for rule of law, calling on the government not only to release all remaining political prisoners, but also to change its policies to prevent human rights violations.